Hello and welcome to the West Asia Post with me, Ghadi Francis. This is our weekly show where we bring you all the latest updates from the world's most volatile region. Our focus this week is on this small neighborhood known by the name of Sheikh Jarrah. For decades, Sheikh Jarrah was just another normal neighborhood in East Jerusalem. But it has become viral online since protests flared against forced eviction of Palestinians from houses there. Since the arrest of prominent Palestinian activists and journalists, Sheikh Jarrah has become the global flashpoint for the conflict, with the hashtag Save Sheikh Jarrah gaining momentum across the world.
When you enter the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah, the wall will most definitely catch your eye. The mural shows a map of Palestine before 1948. Wrapped in a keffiyeh or the traditional headdress, the words on the wall say, "Welcome to the steadfast Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood." A tree-lined area of sandstone homes, Sheikh Jarrah is named after a personal physician to Saladin, the conqueror who seized Jerusalem from the Crusaders in 1187. It also houses a site revered by religious Jews, the tomb of an ancient high priestess, Shimon Hatzadik. Israel occupied East Jerusalem in 1967, later annexing it in a move not recognized by the world. Palestinians were driven out of their homes. Many of them found refuge in Sheikh Jarrah. A Jordanian project here in the 1950s built houses for the displaced Palestinians. It was funded by the United Nations. But some of the land is said to have been owned by Jewish associations. Israelis argue that Sheikh Jarrah belonged to Jews in East Jerusalem before the 1948 war. Under Israeli law, Jewish groups can claim land that once belonged to Jews, even before the foundation of the State of Israel. Doesn't matter if Palestinian families have been living there for decades. This has always been an issue of furious dispute, one that has given birth to a decades-long legal feud. The neighborhood is populated by Palestinians, but a legal challenge in the Israeli Supreme Court is seeking to evict them and bring in Israeli settlers. For decades, Sheikh Jarrah was just another neighborhood. But forced evictions have turned it into a flashpoint. Mohammed Al-Kurd has been working tirelessly to talk about this issue around the world. He and his sister Mona are famous Palestinian activists. They are among those facing the loss of their homes. The Kurd says there is an unprecedented change in public opinion. But behind him, the reality is a stark one. Israeli flags flutter on a home taken over by settlers after his neighbors were evicted.
It is clear that working on social media really makes a change. I was someone who didn't believe that a post or a picture could change anything. But then I figured our first and last battle is the battle of words, a battle of narratives and a battle of public opinion.
The protests in Sheikh Jarrah spread early last month. They moved to the city's Al-Aqsa Mosque compound, sparking a crackdown by Israeli forces against Palestinians. This triggered an 11-day war between the Jewish state and Hamas. One that has killed hundreds of civilians in Gaza. While a ceasefire is currently holding, evictions are yet to stop in the Flashpoint neighbourhood. Earlier, the twins too were detained by the police. Clashes followed their arrest.
I was taken out of the house. They entered in the morning by heavily knocking on the door. They came in with an arrest warrant. They told me that I was under investigation and Muhammad also.
This is what the neighbourhood looks like right now. Police barriers are placed at the end of each street, while Jewish settlers are allowed to move about. If you are a Palestinian who doesn't live here, you will not be allowed into the neighbourhood. As tensions mounted, the Israeli security forces relented. They released the twins shortly after, but it wasn't without a warning.
They said that we were inciting violence, when clearly the only incitement of violence is the presence of an illegal blockade in Sheikh Jarrah, is the presence of settler outposts in Sheikh Jarrah that are threatening to burn our homes and kick us out of our homes.
The Israeli Attorney General has said that he will not intervene in the Sheikh Jarrah case. The decision leaves the Supreme Court free to decide on the future of the Palestinian villages. The Sheikh Jarrah families have rejected this decision, saying that this is a forced expulsion, not a legal matter. The hashtag Save Sheikh Jarrah has now gone viral. But for the Palestinian families, it may soon be a lost cause. None of them have faith in the Israeli judiciary. They believe that Sheikh Jarrah is bigger than just a movement. They see it as a flag bearer for the Palestinian cause.
People have started to understand the Sheikh Jarrah case and about colonialism in general in Jerusalem. Even if we don't manage to save the homes, we've done something bigger. Our cause isn't just saving the homes. If we save homes in Sheikh Jarrah, there are still 800 homes in Silwan that should be saved.
West Asia Bureau, WION. World is One.
Israel calls the Gaza conflict the first artificial intelligence-fought war. During the Operation Guardians of the Walls, the IDF says it relied heavily on machine learning and data gathering. But how precise were its targets in real life, and at what human cost did this artificial intelligence war come?
It was just minutes before the ceasefire. The fortress of Zion was buzzing with tension, trying to complete as many strikes as possible, with apartments in Gaza marked in red. All eyes were on the screen as Israel hit Hamas targets. The Israeli military is calling the 11-day operations the first artificial intelligence war that was fought. It was a first-of-its-kind campaign for the IDF, relying on vast swathes of intelligence. While the Israeli military was using information, most of which was available in the civilian market, the highlight was a centralized AI platform. It collected all data available on groups in Gaza, collated them together onto one system, allowing analysis and easier extraction of intelligence. A small example of Israel's high-tech modern-day warfare. The IDF intelligence wing swung into action long before the conflict escalated in Gaza. Several new programs were developed every day, and data was collected using signal, visual, and human intelligence. But not just that. The IDF combed through mountains of raw data for key pieces or targets that they could strike. The operations were controlled from a bunker, an army command post deep underground in Tel Aviv. It was designed for such high-tech air wars, but this was the first time it was ever used. And not just high-tech weapon systems, Israel has mapped out the entire region, from Gaza streets to Hamas's tunnels. It is a mass surveillance system, including combing through street cameras and hijacking social media information. An illegal tactic, but Israel calls it elimination of threats. For years, Israel's military has been preeminent in West Asia. Military service is compulsory for all adults, and 12% of the government spending is on defense. In focus is its various high-tech military devices. For anyone following the Gaza conflict, the Iron Dome defense system is a common name. When it was established over a decade ago, the Iron Dome had its own share of skeptics. But this time, they saw it work live. And like many, they were astonished by its accuracy. Thousands of rockets intercepted in real time, leaving a pyrotechnic display that lit up the skies. Israel has long lauded its intelligent warfare. The IDF believes that the AI helped shorten the fighting. It said it was quick and the targets were accurate. But for those in Gaza, this is far from the truth. With buildings reduced to rubble and over 250 civilians killed in Gaza. The question remains, how accurate are these strikes? West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Like always, we'll continue to bring you all the latest updates from the heart of the conflict. Don't go anywhere, we have a lot more lined up for today. But first, as usual, let's take a look at what else is making the headlines across West Asia.
Syrian state media reported an Israeli aerial attack near the capital of Damascus and in the central province of Homs. The attack prompted a response from national air defenses. While loud explosions were heard, the target of the attacks were not immediately clear. Iraq has released an Iran-aligned militia commander arrested in May on terrorism-related charges. This comes after authorities found insufficient evidence against him. Now the release is the latest blow to government attempts to rein in armed groups. The United States imposed sanctions targeting Yemen's Houthi rebels as it voiced concerns over the group keeping up a military campaign. US is hoping to exert pressure on the Houthis to end their offensive to seize Marib with these new sanctions. Turkey kicked off a clean-up campaign to defeat a plague of sea snot threatening the Sea of Marmara. A thick, slimy layer of organic matter has spread through the sea, posing a threat to marine life and the fishing industry. Turkey is now planning to designate the entire Sea of Marmara a protected area to reduce pollution and improve treatment of wastewater. The UK Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab met Iraq's Prime Minister Mustafa al-Kadhimi in Baghdad. During the meeting, the officials discussed bilateral ties and agreed to deepen cooperation between the two countries.
The new Israeli coalition has now approved the plan for a state-recognized egalitarian prayer section at the southern end of the Western Wall. The plan was first approved by Netanyahu government but was soon abandoned under Orthodox pressure. So what does this prayer section now mean for the Israelis?
This is the Western Wall in Jerusalem, an ancient limestone structure snaking through the city. It is one of the holiest sites of Judaism, visited by Jews from all across the world. Thousands pray at the wall every day, but in separate sections, for men and women. For many, a visit to the wall is a spiritual experience. But for the feminist group, Women of the Wall, it often includes heckling. and staunch opposition from the Orthodox groups. The decision to build a new pavilion dates back to 2016. The Israeli government finally relented after years of opposition by the feminist group. It was called a Western Wall Compromise, an egalitarian prayer section where men and women pray together. It was supposed to be created at the southern end. It would be run by a diverse board, including progressive Jewish representatives and members of the Women of the Wall organization. But the plan was frozen by Benjamin Netanyahu in 2016. Relenting under pressure from his ultra-Orthodox partners, the coalition then refused to approve any move that could be seen as legitimizing pluralistic Judaism. But now, a new coalition has the numbers in Israel, a unique mixture of 8 factions united by one goal: to oust out Israel's longest-serving prime minister. They are already overturning Bibi's decisions. With the ultra-Orthodox groups out of the coalition, the unity government is set to back the prayer section. For the Lapid-Bennett coalition, it is about a change, hinting at respect for American Jewish practice and pluralism, with a focus on differentiating themselves from Netanyahu. But for the Women of the Wall, it is a major win. A right to pray the way they want, where they want. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
Saudi Arabia and Iran have never declared war, but their proxy warfare has torn West Asia apart. But now resigned to a nuclear deal revival, Gulf states are engaging with their old enemy.
Conflicts are not new in West Asia. Since the dawn of the 20th century, the region has seen plenty of them. But among all the uprisings, deadly civil wars and military insurgencies, two countries always seem to be involved: Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Saudi-Iran rivalry is a fight over influence. The whole of West Asia is their battlefield. For decades, Tehran and Riyadh have been bitter rivals. Saudi Arabia saw itself as the leader of the Muslim world. But this was challenged by the birth of the Islamic Republic of Iran. For decades, the countries could not see eye to eye, but are now resigned to the revival of a nuclear deal. Saudi Arabia is engaging with its old foe. The two are holding secret talks, several rounds of them in Baghdad. This comes amid countless negotiations in Vienna. World powers are huddled together, charting a path that could revive the historic 2015 nuclear deal. Saudi Arabia and the UAE have always been opposed to it. But with its revival being pushed by the US, the Gulf states are now engaging with Iran in a move to contain tensions in the region. Saudi Arabia does not have the same clout with Joe Biden that it once enjoyed with the Trump administration. Even though they lobbied to join the Vienna talks, they were apparently rebuffed by the members. So instead of waiting for the outcome, Riyadh has taken matters in its own hands. It is engaging with Iran with the help of Iraq. But it says that wider issues must not be set aside. The focus is on Yemen and the city of Marib. It is the last bastion of the government. If it falls, it could be the end of the coalition. And no one knows that better than Mohammed bin Salman. The Crown Prince led Saudi troops into war in Yemen in 2015. It was a bombing campaign supposed to last only a few weeks. 6 years later, it still continues. For Iran, it is all about rallying its proxies. But for Saudi Arabia, it has been an expensive war. The focus for the Gulf now is their economy, one that has been battered by the pandemic and record low oil prices across the globe. They are trying to de-escalate in the region, but security assurances are an important part of this. Gulf states hope that Washington will maintain leverage over Tehran by keeping some sanctions designed to deter terrorism. And a recent comment by the US Secretary of State may have given them some assurance.
Even in the event of a return to compliance with the JCPOA, hundreds of sanctions will remain in place, including sanctions imposed by the Trump administration. If they are not inconsistent with the JCPOA, they will remain unless and until Iran's behavior changes.
While the Gulf states remain skeptical, for now, all they have is this assurance. For years, they have been engaged in a struggle with Iran. At the center of this war was ambition and influence. But it looks like their priorities have now shifted. West Asia Bureau, WION World is One.
Dubai's property market is currently booming. Fresh out of a lockdown, Europeans are flocking to the Emirates, buying up luxurious properties to leave behind the lockdown blues.
Luxury villas, infinity pools, private cinemas, and golf course estates. The lockdown blues are over for the world's uber rich, and they are heading to Dubai to invest in a post-pandemic future. Dubai's property market is growing fast, powering out of a 6-year malaise. Wealthy international investors are driving a buying frenzy, one that is breaking all kinds of records and fueling an economic recovery in Dubai.
After COVID hitting, going into lockdown is where we saw the market really slow down. Transaction volumes pretty much arrested because the ability to transact was gone. And then straight after that lockdown period, we started to see transaction volumes increase, and they really haven't stopped since.
Dubai's property market is a roller coaster ride. It has been declining since 2014. Last year, the market flatlined after the pandemic, with the Emirates slammed shut its borders. But since July 2019, it has been a steady climb. Dubai was one of the first destinations to reopen to visitors, pairing the open door policy with strict rules and a robust vaccination program. Even with a surge of infections in 2021, the city remained open to visitors. Life continued as normal, with little to no restrictions, making it a favorite among the lockdown dodgers.
So I think what COVID ultimately did, it opened the doors for us for the rest of the world, and people came and visited and realized how beautiful it was.
The flood of arrivals regenerated tourism, helping business activity recover to pre-COVID levels. A surge in the sale of luxury properties was striking, with 90 transactions in the month of April alone, compared to around 350 to 400 on a yearly basis. A mansion on the Palm sold for a whopping $30 million, the highest price reached in years on the man-made island. For years, Palm Jumeirah is known for its show-stopping houses, and it looks like investors now want a piece of it.
I think people have started to realize that Dubai is not just a construction site anymore, which it was, maybe 10 years ago. We had the most amount of cranes.
The buyers are a new breed of cashed-up Europeans. Tired of COVID-19 restrictions in their own countries, they are tempted by the Emirates' luxurious offerings, seeking infinity pools and acres of marble and glass.
I mean, if you look at all sectors that create a true destination, a global destination, you know, we tick every box. You know, it's got a great climate. You've got great food and beverage, great retail.
In a market where fortunes have been made and lost, there is still some nervousness. Many question whether the Ghadi rises can be sustained, even with the remarkable gains. The market is still off its highs of 2014, and Dubai's apartment market is trailing far behind. But investors believe that the rally is likely to continue. With government reforms and attractive mortgage rates, it looks like Dubai remains a place to seek out bargains, especially for buyers with deep pockets. West Asia Bureau, WION, World is One.
That's all we have for you on this episode of the West Asia Post. I will see you next week with a brand new lineup, bringing you more stories from the world's most volatile region. Until then, stay home and stay safe. I am Ghadi Francis, and you are watching WION. World is One.